Over the last decade or so, I was many things: a blogger, a reviewer, a measurer, a YouTuber, a collaborator, and now a shop owner. But for the longest time, there was a frontier that I had never touched, whether or not it was because of conflict of interest or simply because it was too difficult. Today is a big day. Today, I officially launch my own audio brand, CrinEar, as well as its debut model, the Project Meta. That's right, for all of you waiting, Project Meta is now officially available exclusively at Hangout.audio, retailing at $249 US. Project Meta comes in with a full CNC anodized aluminum shell, a high quality copper cable with interchangeable 3.5mm as well as 4.4mm terminations, as well as a robust crush-proof hard case with silicone as well as foam tips. In terms of the tuning, we are using cutting-edge research utilizing the new Brew & Care Type 5128 measurement rig in order to shape the frequency response of the Project Meta. And finally, and this may hurt some of you, Project Meta will be a limited run of 500 units, extendable up to 999 units, depending on the response. And no more after that, because I really only commissioned about 3 digits worth of stock. So what are you waiting for? Click on the link down below to get your own Project Meta today. But there is also a lot more that I would like to talk about. So if you would allow me, let me go into the nerd shit. So first, let's talk about CrinEar, the brand. Why start my own brand? How is this different from a collaboration? And what does CrinEar even mean? First of all, if you're asking that last question, just know that I am severely disappointed that the pun just went straight over your heads. We are CrinEar because we make in-ears. Second, before I talk about why I started my own brand, we really first have to talk about the collabs. These are all of my collaborations. Everything first started with the Fearless X Crinacle Dawn, an IEM that retails at $1,400 US and didn't do quite well. But what really did do very well would be the Moondrop X Crinacle Blessing 2 Dusk, an IEM that has attained legendary status and is still talked about by many people today. Then of course people would know of the Zero, as well as the Zero, and the Zero, and the latest Zero. But that's the thing, is that all of these are, again, collaborations when I work with another audio brand in order to create a product that we have done together. There are many pros and cons, the big pro of which would be that I actually don't have to invest my own money in ensuring that one of these products go out into the market. I also don't really have to think about anything other than the tuning as well as the marketing of these products. And at the end of the day, collaborations are, in my opinion, a bit of easy mode. It is very easy to get a product like this out onto the market. You don't have to handle too much beyond what is actually expected out of you. And once everything is done and dusted, all I really have to do is just sit back and let the royalties flow in. But the bigger con really is the fact that I don't have much control over the rest of the product. I don't have any say in terms of the aesthetics, maybe a little bit in terms of the colorway, but usually when the shell is designed, for example, I just kind of have to accept that that is the shell that I will be using. When it comes to the packaging, I have no say. When it comes to the packaging box art, I have a bit of a say, but clearly not enough. So if I want a product that is well and truly mine, the logical next step would be to make my own brand. And at this point, the question is probably be, why didn't I do this much sooner? Well, I do have an entire video explaining that making your own brand, you're making your own IEMs or even headphones, is a monumental task. It is not easy, and the fact that now that I have full control over everything also means that I have to do everything. So instead of sitting back and letting the money flow in, now there is an upfront investment that I have to consider. I have to now consider the packaging, I have to consider the shell shape, I have to consider literally everything else that I wouldn't have to think about. For example, even the accessories. It's a whole different topic. Again, if you want to know more, you can always watch this video, but essentially, it is hard. So yes, things took a while to get to this point, about a year to be exact, but now we're finally here with the launch of Project Meta. But now I have to explain one more thing, because the more astute of you would have realized that it's not just simply the CrinEar Meta, but rather the CrinEar Project Meta. So what exactly is the project in all of this? So there's a concept that I would like to have in the CrinEar brand, and that is the project series. The project series is a series of products that would be all limited edition. The project series will also be more for those wacky, slightly unconventional, maybe less popular products that we think wouldn't sell as well. This is kind of our skunkworks division, if you will, a department where we are free to come up with all sorts of interesting, unconventional designs, lose a bunch of money in the process, and then attempt to sell you some units and recoup some of that R&D costs. So if that's the case, what is Project Meta? What is the gimmick? And the interesting thing is, there is no gimmick. Project Meta represents the philosophy of the CrinEar brand going forward. No bullshit, minimal flair, and simply the best product that we can come up with at that price point. So simply put, the gimmick of the Project Meta, if you really have to have a gimmick, is that it's a good IEM. The best that we can achieve at $249 US. First, let's talk about the non-audio aspect, starting with, yes, the metal shell. It uses a fully CNC anodized aluminum shell. We've also tried our best to make the shell shape as ergonomic as possible, pseudo-custom, but at the same time making it as tiny as possible. The nozzle size of the Project Meta, which would be a pain point for many people, is also as small as we can make it, 5.8 millimeters at the lip and 5.2 millimeters at the stem. We're also using a high quality copper cable, which is very soft and very supple, matching the chamfers of the faceplate, and comes in with an interchangeable termination of 3.5 single-ended as well as 4.4 mm balanced. The Y-split as well as the connectors are also using the same black anodized aluminum as with the shell. Now going into the real nerd shit, now let's talk about the tuning, because there is really a lot to cover here. First of all, as the name implies, we are using the new Meta in order to shape the sound signature of the Project Meta. I know what you're thinking, what exactly is new Meta? Well, simply put, it is new research based on the new Brewing Care Type 5128 on what flat really is. So we take this new baseline, the diffuse feel flat, if you will. Basically, this is our blank canvas, and then we add on our adjustments on top of this in order to make it sound nice. Now, there's a lot of discussion of which adjustments exactly sound the best. After all, meta tuning simply means an adjustment on the population average diffuse field curve. There's the whole tilt versus treble adjustments. There is the whole bass shelf adjustment, as well as the ear gain adjustments, all of which I've actually written about on crinacle.com, where I talk about the new IEF preference 2025 curve. So for those of you who want to go really deep into the nerd shit, well, you can always go over to that article and read on. But for those of you who want a more simplified explanation, we have done a lot of listening tests in terms of how to shape the bass as well as the treble, and we have come up with this IEF preference 2025. It is a balance of a lot of things. I like bass, so I like to push my bass up quite a lot, but pushing the bass up in the conventional way makes it sound very fuzzy and some would say even muddy. Instead, on IEF preference 2025, we have the bass reined in a lot more, so it's much more sub-bass focused, so that it's cleaner relative towards the mids. But because of that, we also don't want to down tilt the response too much. If not, it sounds a bit too dull and, well, dark. So instead of doing that, we do a treble adjustment instead, and of course just a little bit, -4 decibels, and that's where we get, again, IEF preference 2025. But on top of all of this, what I've found out is that I feel like with the new population average diffuse field adjustment, we do require a little bit extra of that air frequencies to make it a bit more sparkly, more brilliant, more airy, all those other similar descriptors. And all of these tuning adjustments finally make their way into, yes, the project meta. Everything here that you see on this target is done completely analog, no DSP, purely by crossovers and drivers. Which segues us into the next point, which is that we use the highest quality drivers available to us today. So not only are we able to get the total harmonic distortion of the project meta to be under 0.5%, we are also able to get the distortion profile to be second order dominant, much like the tubes on the HG1. And lastly, not only have we considered the conventional range of human hearing, but we have also considered the infrasonics as well. What that means is that we have selected some of the best woofers for the project meta, allowing it to go down into the single-digit frequencies without breaking a sweat. We have measured the project meta down to 2 Hz, and even then, it is just -5 decibels relative to 200 Hz. So everything is shaping out to be amazing. So why? Why is it a project? Why must I, crinacle, lock away such greatness behind a limited run? First of all, as much as I appreciate all of your confidence towards me, it is also my first product. I have no idea how it's gonna sell. So as my first product, it is simply prudent to manage expectations as well as to test the market, so to speak. And secondly, we don't actually make a lot of money out of this project. Put it this way, if we're going by industry standard margins, we would be pricing the project meta closer to $400, maybe $500 US. This would allow us to distribute to resellers as well as other retail stores, and theoretically maybe even sell a higher volume. But as the debut model, I would like the project meta to be special. First of all, to show off what we as CrinEar are capable of, and secondly, to make our mark on the industry right off the bat. By selling exclusively at Hangout.audio as a limited run, we cut out the middleman and give you the savings that would have been passed on to distributors as well as resellers. But that also means no Amazon, no AliExpress, no Shopee, no Lazada, because simply put, we don't have the margin to pay for their platform fees. And finally, I know that some of you have been wondering about the driver configuration. And that is it. I thank you all deeply for listening to me shill yet another one of my products, but this time it is finally my brand. I am excited, scared, optimistic, pessimistic, all at the same time. I hope CrinEar would be the start of something big and that all of you would be here to join me on my journey. I will see you all next week, and don't die. Fuck off.